You had a friend over, someone calm, someone who likes cats, someone who did everything right, sat still, didn't reach out, let your cat come to them. And your cat walked in, looked at this perfectly acceptable human, and went absolutely feral. Or the opposite happened. A stranger walked into your house and your cat, who never does this, walked straight over and climbed into their lap. You were bewildered. You still are, because the reaction made no sense based on what you could see in that room. The key word is, what you could see. What was actually driving your cat's response had nothing to do with that room, that person, or that day. It had everything to do with something that happened, sometimes years ago, in rooms you never saw. Your cat's reaction to strangers is not random. It is a direct readout of their history. And once you know how to read it, you will understand your cat in a way you never have before. Every cat that has ever hidden under a bed when someone knocked on the door. Every cat that has ever walked straight to the one person in the room who didn't want them. Every cat that has ever hissed at a hat, specifically a hat, for reasons you could not begin to explain. These are not personality quirks. These are messages from the past. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what your cat's behavior toward strangers is telling you about what happened to them before you. You will understand why some of these reactions are permanent and some can change. And you will know what to do, and what never to do, when a stranger triggers something in your cat. Let's start with the window that determines almost everything. Part 1. The socialization window. The 7 weeks that shape a lifetime. There is a period in every cat's life, between 2 and 7 weeks of age, that behavioral scientists call the socialization window. During this window, the cat's brain is in a state of neurological openness unlike anything it will experience again. It is actively building templates, pattern libraries, internal models of what is normal, what is safe, what belongs in the world, and what doesn't. Whatever the kitten is regularly exposed to during these 5 weeks gets filed as normal. Whatever it is not exposed to gets filed as potential threat by default for the rest of its life. This is not learned fear the way an adult animal learns to fear something. This is architectural. The absence of exposure doesn't create a neutral response. It creates a gap in the safety template that the brain fills with caution. A kitten raised in a home with multiple types of people, men, women, children, people with different voices and different appearances, builds a broad safety template. Strangers, as a category, register as probably fine until proven otherwise. A kitten raised in isolation, or in a single-person home, or in a shelter environment with limited human variety, builds a narrow safety template. Anything outside that narrow template registers as unknown, and unknown registers as potential danger. This is why 2 cats from the same litter, placed in different homes at 8 weeks, can develop completely different responses to strangers. Same genetics, different socialization windows, completely different readouts to the world. And here is where it gets important for your specific cat. Part 2. Reading the reactions. What each behavior toward strangers actually means. Not all stranger aversion looks the same. And not all stranger affinity looks the same either. The specific behavior your cat shows tells you something specific about what happened, and when. Reaction 1. Immediate hiding. No hissing, no aggression, just gone. This is the signature of a cat whose socialization window was spent in very low human contact, feral adjacent, or isolated. The response is pure withdrawal. No threat assessment needed. Unfamiliar humans are simply not part of their safety template, and their instinct is to remove themselves from the variable. These cats can often be gradually desensitized over months to years. The trust, once built, is deep. But the initial template cannot be fully rewritten. Reaction 2. Hissing, growling, or swatting at strangers, especially at specific types. This is more specific, and more telling. A cat that hisses at all strangers equally likely experienced something aversive during the socialization window, handling that felt threatening, an environment that felt unsafe. But a cat that reacts strongly to a specific type of person, men specifically, children specifically, people in hats, people who move a certain way, has almost certainly had a negative experience with something in that category, not a generalized fear, a targeted memory. The cat is not reacting to this person, they are reacting to a pattern match their brain is running against something from the past. Reaction 3. Freezing and staring. This is threat assessment in real time. The cat has not decided. They are gathering information. This is a cat who was not under-socialized enough to hide immediately, but who encountered something in their history that makes unfamiliar humans require evaluation. Watch the ears. If they go back, the assessment is going poorly. If they stay forward and the body slowly loosens, you are watching a cat talk themselves down from something old. Reaction 4. Going immediately to the stranger who shows the least interest. This one surprises almost everyone, but it is one of the most consistent findings in feline behavior research. Cats in studies reliably approach and spend more time with the human in a room who is not directing attention at them. This is not irony. This is not cats being perverse. The cat's threat assessment reads, person looking at me, reaching toward me, making sounds at me, as higher pressure, higher uncertainty behavior. The person sitting still, looking elsewhere, making no demands, reads as low threat. Low threat is where a cat with any uncertainty in their history wants to be. The person who doesn't like cats sits still and avoids eye contact. To the cat's nervous system, that is the safest person in the room. And reaction 5, the one that stops owners cold. The cat that responds perfectly well to strangers. No hiding, no hissing. Curious, relaxed, maybe even social. This is the socialization window functioning as intended. This cat, between 2 and 7 weeks, met enough variety of people and enough safety that strangers as a category registered as normal, probably fine. Let me check them out. This cat is not braver than your cat. They are not better than your cat. They were simply luckier in those first 7 weeks. Part 3. The specific triggers. Hats, voices, hands, and what they mean. If your cat reacts to something specific about a stranger, not to strangers in general, but to something about them, that specificity is a message. It is the clearest window into your cat's past that you will ever get. Men with deep voices. In a significant percentage of cases where cats show strong fear responses to men specifically, there is a history of aversive experiences, deliberate or not, with male handlers. This can be as direct as physical harm or as indirect as a male veterinarian who was the only human the cat experienced during a frightening procedure. The cat is not deciding this man is dangerous. Their amygdala, the brain's threat response center, is running a pattern match and returning a hit. Children. Cats who react strongly to children but not to adults typically have one of 2 histories. Either they were not exposed to children during the socialization window, and children simply don't match the human template they built, or they had a specific negative experience with a child, the kind of handling that children often do and adults often don't. Sudden grabbing, picking up incorrectly, chasing. Hats, umbrellas, bags, sudden silhouettes. A cat that reacts to an object carried by a stranger, or to the change in a person's silhouette, experienced something in their past where a similar shape or approach was associated with something threatening. This level of specificity is important to understand. It means the fear is not about the stranger. It never was. The stranger is a key that accidentally fits a lock built by someone else. Hands extended at a certain angle, a certain way of reaching, a certain speed of approach. A cat that flinches from hands, specifically from reaching hands, has almost certainly been handled roughly at some point. Not necessarily abused in the conventional sense. Sometimes it's a well-meaning person who moved too fast, too often, in a way that felt threatening. Repetition makes patterns. Patterns become templates. Templates run for life. Part 4. The cats who go to strangers. What this reveals too. We have spent a lot of time on fear responses, but the cats who approach strangers freely, who seem unbothered by new people, who will sit on a visitor's lap within minutes of meeting them, these cats also have a history worth understanding. For many of them, it is simply a well-utilized socialization window, but for some, particularly rescue cats, shelter cats, cats who have moved through multiple homes, the behavior can mean something more complex. A cat that approaches every stranger with almost aggressive affiliation, seeking contact immediately, indiscriminately, is sometimes a cat who learned, through instability, that securing attention from any available human was a survival strategy. This is not the same as a confident, well-socialized cat who is simply curious about new people. The behavioral tells are in the body. A confident, well-socialized cat approaches a stranger with body loose, tail up, and pauses to assess before making contact. They read the stranger and then decide. A cat displaying what behaviorists call indiscriminate affiliation, seeking contact without assessment, often shows a slightly different signature. They don't pause. They don't read the stranger. The social motivation is not about this specific person. It is about the need for contact itself. Understanding this distinction matters because these cats often look like they're fine. They are social, they are affectionate, but they may be, underneath, running a different program, one built in a period of uncertainty about whether connection would be available. The good news is the same in both cases: stability and consistency. The same answer we always come back to in feline behavior is what gradually rewrites the underlying need. Part 5. What you can and cannot change. Here is the honest answer most people don't want to hear. The socialization window closes at 7 weeks. What was built during that window is not fully erasable. A cat who did not meet a wide variety of humans before 7 weeks of age will always, at some level, require more effort to feel safe around strangers than a cat who did. This is not a failure. It is not a reflection of how much you love them or how good your home is. It is the structural legacy of those 5 specific weeks. What can change, and what research on feline behavioral modification consistently shows can change, is the threshold, the point at which the threat assessment system activates. You cannot delete the template, but you can build enough positive association, enough predictability, enough data points of safe experience that the threshold rises. The cat who once hid at the sound of the doorbell may, with months or years of patient work, begin to peek around the corner instead of disappearing. The cat who once swatted at men may begin to hold their ground and simply watch rather than act. These are real, documented changes. They are not transformations. They are threshold movements. And they happen through the same mechanism that all feline trust is built: consistency, patience, never forcing. Letting the cat control every step of every interaction. And here is the instruction that matters most when you have a visitor who triggers your cat. Tell your visitor, do nothing. Sit down. Look elsewhere. Do not approach. Do not reach. Do not make sounds directed at the cat. Just exist in the space. And then watch. Because if there is any accessibility in your cat, any openness that wasn't there before you built this foundation of safety, it will emerge in that moment. Not always, not on the first try, but more than you might expect. Your cat arrived with a history. Maybe you know some of it, maybe you know none of it, but everything your cat does, every fear response, every specific trigger, every time they go to the wrong person or flee from the right one, is a page from that history. They are not broken, they are not difficult. They are not rejecting you or embarrassing you or being irrational. They are carrying something that happened in rooms you never saw. In the first weeks of their life, when their brain was building its map of what was safe in the world. And when your cat hides at the sound of the doorbell, or hisses at a hat, or flees from someone who did nothing wrong, they are not being irrational. They are being faithful to the map they were given. Your job, and the reason they ended up with you, was never to erase that map. It was to become, slowly and consistently, the safest landmark on it. And if they have stayed, if they have built, even partially, a kind of trust in the home you've made, then you have done something remarkable, without erasing what came before, just by being the thing that came after. Tag someone who has a cat with a complicated past. Tell them, the reactions make sense. You just need the key. If this gave you a new way to see your cat, hit subscribe. Every week we go deeper into the science of what cats carry, what they need, and how to meet them where they actually are. Next week, the specific things that happen in a cat's brain during their first 48 hours in a new home. and why what you do in that window matters more than anything that comes after. That one might change how you think about every new cat you ever bring home. Drop a comment below. Tell me, what does your cat do with strangers? And do you know anything about their history? I want to hear what connections you're making. And share this with someone who has ever felt confused, embarrassed, or worried by how their cat behaves around people. They deserve to know. The reaction is a message. Now you know how to read it.